So today we are talking about your head and is that the cause of your lower back pain. So if you're a bit confused, this is in relation to center of gravity basically. So obviously your body should feel quite centered when you're standing upright. And a good way to gauge this is just to feel where you're actually feeling the weight in your feet. Because if you're feeling like your weight is more in your toes, that will also have an effect on where else your body needs to support you most. So when your weight is centered and everything is in a straight line down the center of your body, the weight should be more or less like in the center of your foot, so around your arch area, the midfoot area, and towards your heels probably, because obviously that's more your center line there through your heel. So we're talking about middle to the back as opposed to just at the front of your foot. So what does this have to do with your head? So your head is quite a heavy part of your body. Now I can't remember how many kilos it is because they always change it from kilos and pounds and I get confused, so I can't remember. Anyway, it's quite a heavy part of your body. If your head is not in alignment with the rest of your body, so right now ears and shoulders should be more or less in alignment, and I can't see if mine is today or not, but for some people their head may be up here because they spend a lot of time looking at their phone, so their neck has now shortened at the front and lengthened at the back, so their head is here. So why is this now a problem for your lower back? This is when you need to understand how muscles attach and where they start and where they end. So with your spine, you've got muscles. So imagine this is the back. You've got muscles that run from the back of your back of your skull, so here, which run down. So imagine this is the back. It'll come from the back of your skull all the way down the spinal column and then attach into the base of your pelvis. Base of your pelvis, the top of your pelvis. So you've got the muscles that run along there. When your head is forward, what happens to the muscles? They now become lengthened here. And as a result, you're going to have those muscles being overstretched. Now that's just one issue. So you get that overstretched sensation, which might mean you feel a lot of it up here. But what happens when your head is out here is your center of gravity will change. So you can try this yourself. If you stand side on and your head is naturally out here, what happens if you bring your head up and you look straight ahead and you stand taller? So if you imagine you've got a stack of books on your head and you're standing taller, your core is engaged, your weight distribution should change from being there, where if I'm standing here with my head quite far forward, my weight is now more in the front of my feet. So if I stand up and look straight ahead, the weight has now gone into my heels and my midfoot, and my head is back. What you want to feel is what's going on in your lower back. So if you're regularly getting lower backache and back pain, especially if you're when you're standing, so if you're in a queue, that's when people tend to notice it because they're having to stand still for periods of time. So if you're standing in a queue, you're waiting, and that's when your back aches the most, there is likely an issue with the way your weight is being distributed in your standing position. So it could be that you're forward and you're quite slumped forward, or you might be slouched forward like this, which will again elongate those muscles here. So you'll feel it in your upper back as well. But what happens in your lower back is that's the center of that's where it all concentrates. The pressure point will be here because your head is forward. So even if you put your hands into your small of your lower back now and just moving the position of your head and neck, so if I just go forward like this and back, I can feel the tension change in those spinal muscles. So if you're permanently with your head out, those spinal muscles are having to contract the whole time, so they're like this all the time. So they become overworked, and that's when you might find you get muscle spasms, and that's why you feel uncomfortable when you're standing for long periods of time, because you've got to keep moving to get them moving, because they're stuck like this, because your head is here. So it's contracting here to support you. So if you're not sure what you're doing with your head, just put your hand to the small of your back and just move your head back and forth and see how that's changing the sensations in your lower back. As I said, it's quite complicated because if you are quite rounded in your rounded forward of your shoulders as well, it will affect the upper back muscles and it will keep them lengthened regardless of what you do with your neck, because you're not opening it up enough to allow the muscles to go back into their relaxed position. So there's a few things you can do. You can try going into that complete extreme where you are really rounded forward, have your hands there, and then lift yourself up through your core, and then try and get your shoulders back and then your neck and your head, and feel what changes in the spinal muscles. You can do that one, and also what you can also do is once you've got into that position, you're standing quite upright, feel what is happening in your feet. Where is your weight? Is it still in your heels, in the midfoot, or in your toes? Now once you're there, try and keep the torso still so this part isn't moving, the upper part, and see what happens when you move your weight in your feet. So if you try and go into your toes more, what happens in your lower back? If you go into your heels, where does the weight go? So for me right now, I'm standing with my feet about hip width apart, and I'm rocking slightly forward towards my toes, and as I do this I can feel the muscles start to contract, so that tries to stabilize me. I'm contracting my core muscles as well. So if you don't naturally engage your core muscles, this is when your back will have to do more work. So if I don't engage my core, it will start to arch. My back is starting to arch, which means I'm getting more of that contraction in the muscles. And yeah, so all the weight's in my back because I'm not using my glutes either or my core. Now if I go backwards the opposite way into my heels, yep, the back is contracting again, more so, and I'm trying to lean forward with it a little bit as well. So it's trying to make me want to go this way, and I can feel it contract underneath. And that's all without engaging my core. If I engage my core, obviously I'm going to get some of that additional support, which will stabilize the muscles around the spine, which will prevent it from that excessive movement. So back to where we started, it's all about center of gravity. So you want your weight to be equally distributed through your body. When it isn't, the crunch point usually will be the lower back, and that's why people will feel achy in their lower back if they're standing for long periods of time. If your head is in the wrong position, you're making your muscles work harder than they should be. So the goal right now is to check what you're doing with your posture. Where is your head in relation to the rest of your body? Is it out there? Are your shoulders really protracted? Or are you upright here, and is your head back, and is your lower back relaxed because your core is engaged? So as soon as your core engages, it lifts. So everything lifts and everything feels supported in the center region, which is what you're looking for. So I know quite a few people who don't engage their core or don't know how to engage their core, and especially if you've had lower back pain for some time, it becomes quite hard to naturally engage the core. But it's something that you need to think about, and it is all about using your brain to help you relearn what you need to engage, and you have to be thinking about it constantly in order for it to rectify itself. It's not something that will be automatic and that happens overnight, because you're effectively having to retrain your motor skills. But once you are able to do that, you will start to do it naturally eventually. So it's a case of focusing on doing it regularly at the moment, and then eventually it becomes more natural and a habit that your body just does naturally. So let us know how you get on with your head and neck. Tell me where you're feeling the weight in your feet, and is it your head that's causing your lower back pain? So that's all for today, and I'll see you again tomorrow.